Hello student. Today we will discuss about the CSS position property. So it is very vital topic. It is one of the most important property of the CSS that we have to understand, that is position. It has certain values. We have to work with the values while the requirement arises during the design session of our website, right? So let us understand that how can we use this CSS position property. See, so we already have created the HTML root tag, we have a head, also the body. Inside the head we have the title. I have written CSS property, CSS position property in the title. So now we need a HTML element, and to that HTML element we are going to implement the CSS property. We know that we can only implement the CSS property along with its value to a HTML element. So let us have a HTML element. So I will use the div. So this is also a HTML element. This is a container type element. We have learned in the previous lecture that how can we use the div, that is the division, to create the section in a web layout, and how can we use the div to its best effect to design a proper website. So let us have this element, that is div. So now I will apply the CSS to this element. So we know that div does not have any size. It takes the size of the container, or sometimes we have to assign height and width for the container. That has to be applied through the CSS. So we are going to use the internal method of writing CSS using the style tag inside the head. So let us do. So inside the style, here we will use the element type selector, right? So that is why I have written div. So this div is a element type selector. So whatever CSS property and value I will write over here, that will be applicable to this div, right? So I will assign height and width. So width, let's give some width. Width will be 250 px, right? And height, that will be 250 px. So you can see height and width both are 250 px. So it seems to be a square, right? Because width and height both are same, that is why it will be a square. So I will give color, background color, right? Red. Now let me see how it appears. So you can see I have created this red color square looking div. Now see here, I will add top, $50 px, left 50 px. So I have written 50 px top, 50 px left. That means the div, the position of the div will start from 50 px top and 50 px left, right? Now I will write the position static. So can you see one thing? I have written position static, top 50 px, left 50 px, right? But you can see one thing, this 50 px top and 50 px left and top, these two 50 px that I have written over here, this position has not been implemented for this div. You can see the position which I have given has not been implemented, right? If instead of 50, if I write 250px top, 250px left, if I go and check in the browser, so you can see 250px from top, 250px from left. The position which I have written, that has not been implemented, right? So if I write here relative and check it over here, see, can you see 250px top, 250px left. But if I write here static, that time you may see that top and left, this position will not be implemented if you use the static position. So static position will ignore these two things, right? But the relative position will accept this top and left. So the relative position will accept the top and left. So it will start after taking this position, that is 250px from top and 250px from left. So if you write relative, then this will be granted, right? Now another is, let's say, initial. Now let us see how this thing work. So now you can see initial. So can you see, after I have written initial, again this top and left, this has been ignored. So if you write the position initial, it will start from the initial place. See, the div will start from the initial position. So initial means the div will start from the initial position. It will ignore whatever value you give, that will be ignored, right? Have you understood? Okay, now let me show you another thing. If I write here absolute, now you can see one thing. After I have taken absolute from top 250px, from left 250px, you can see after I have written absolute position, so it has taken absolute position from top 250px, from left 250px. Can you see? So absolute position and relative position, both seems to be same, right? Both seems to be same. Absolute position and relative position, more or less both seems to be same, right? But actually they are not same. I will explain it to you. See, can you see how many div I have taken? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me take 4 div. See, I have taken 4 div, right? Now I will do one thing. I will add inline CSS to each div. So I will add the inline CSS to this 4 div, right? Now one thing I will add. So I have removed the color. I want that each of the 4 div will have separate color, right? The first div will be of the red color, the second div will be of the blue color, this div will be of the green color, and the last one will be of the violet color. So you can see we have 4 div having 4 separate color, right? And one thing I will do more, this top and left margin I will reduce this thing to, let's say, 100 px. So you can see we have 4 div. This is a element type selector, so this property will be assigned to each and every div. So you can see 4 div we have, and this property that will be applicable for 4 div. So one thing I will do now, first I will show you by writing here relative. So you can see I have changed it to the relative. Now let's see how it appears. So you can see first div red, second div blue, third div green, and the fourth one is violet. We have 4 div, right? One after another, and here I have written absolute, right? Now let me show you another thing. Now I have just removed the position absolute. Now if I go and check, can you see we have all 4 div, and all the div has started right from the edge, right? It has started from here. Now I will do one thing. Let me show you one thing, that this will not work unless you give the position. This too will not work, because this is relevant to the position that you are going to add. I have deleted the position CSS position property. That is why this two will not work. This two will work with the CSS position property. Now what I will do, I will write the CSS position property here. So for the first div I have added the CSS position property. Now you can see this div will only have the relative position property. Let's see. So can you see the red color first div has occupied a position, top position 100 px, left position 100 px, right? Now if I copy this thing and paste it to this 4 div, and after doing so, if we go and observe, let us see what we can observe out here. So you can see, if you notice clearly, from top we have taken 100 px position, right, from top, and from left we have taken 100 px. But you can notice one thing, that as because we have applied the relative position property, all these div has not taken 100 px from top separately, right? Now what is the difference between the absolute and the relative? So if I write here absolute, the second one I have written absolute. Now let's see. Can you see the difference? The second one, that is the blue color, all these 3 are relative, right? But the second one is absolute. Once I have done it, you can see the difference. This blue one has taken its position, absolute position, from top 100 px and from left 100 px, unlike rest of 3 div. If you see in the rest of 3 div, from top, once the first one has taken position, that is 100 px, as because the first one has taken position of 100 px from the top, other 2 div which also has relative position has not taken further position, right? This position has been taken once for the first div, that is the red color div that you can see over here. Red color div, right? This is red color div. See the first one having relative CSS position property, right? This div has placed having a top position. You can see from top it has taken 100 px, from left it has taken 100 px. Other two div has not taken separately. This two div also having relative position property, but this two div has not taken separately 100 px from top, right? But all together has taken from left 100 px. But once I have written absolute for the second one, you can notice one thing, that now this div, this blue color div, has been placed to its absolute position, that is 100 px from top and 100 px from the left. But now if I do this thing, if I make it relative again, and if I make this one absolute, this is the green color div, which has its position, you can see, at the third position. It holds the third position. So this div I have converted to the absolute position, right? Now let me see this green color div. So you can see, after I have refreshed the browser, the green color div which was here position at the third position, right, it has taken its absolute position from top 100, from left 100. You can observe right here, from top 100, from left 100. But one thing, let me show you. So if I again change this thing as relative, and if I make the last one absolute, now you can notice over here that the last div, that is having the violet color div, which was positioned at the last, written at the last, this div, all the three div are relative. This one is absolute. You can see now the absolute div, that is a violet color, which was positioned at the last here, it has taken its absolute position, that is, you can see top 100, left 100. You can see top 100 and left 100. Okay, irrespective of the position of all other div which were having the relative position property, right? Now let me show you one thing. Can you see a little bit difference of margin for the relative div? You can observe that relative div is further pushed, maybe of 6 to 8 px at the left, and also the first red color div has been pushed maybe 6 to 8 px further from the violet color div. Why it is so? Why it is so? Let me explain you. The body also has its margin, right? The margin that has been applied to the body will not be implemented in case of absolute position. In case of absolute position, the body margin, that will not be implemented. Only it will have the absolute position, that is top 100, left 100. Body margin, that will be ignored. But in case of relative, the body margin also has been accepted, right? The body margin also has been added with this margin. Okay, so let me show you. Now I will do one thing. I will write body margin. Now see what I have done. Body margin 0 px. Body has certain margin. Now I will delete the margin. So once I delete the body margin, then you can see all these three div which has the relative Css position property. This will exactly start from the violet color div. Let me show you. Can you see? Can you see now? The first red div, that is kept behind the violet color div. Okay, that div is now kept hidden. Why? Because this violet color div holds its absolute position. That is why the red color div, having the relative position property, has got hidden behind the absolute div. This div will always be placed at the top. Okay, relative div, it has its position, but it has gone behind this particular div, right? Now once I make it relative again, now you can see all div will come one after another, right? All are relative. And you have understood that body has the margin. I have removed the margin. Now let me show you another thing. So if I write here static, okay, the first one I have changed to static, other three are relative. Now let me see. So can you see, this is static, right? So I told you static will ignore this thing. If you write static, static will ignore this position. Static, for the static position, this top and left will not be implemented. Static is by default, it will start without having any position. It will not take any position. It will just start with the flow of the element. And what about the initial? Initial, this is same as static, right? Initial will work similarly as the static do, right? I hope you have understood. Now let me show you the another thing, that is fixed position. Can you see fixed position? So what is the difference between fixed and relative? I will show you. So can you see? 1, 2, 3. Where is the red one? Where is the first div having the red color? That is gone behind the blue color div. If you make the position fixed, unlike the absolute that has its position fixed, but it has gone behind the blue color div. It is there, but it has gone behind this blue color div. Now I will show you. Here I will add margin left. How much? Let's say another 2. Let me give 300 px. Only for this particular div I have given left margin in the inline style. So this margin left that I have written for this particular div, this will override the margin that I have given over here, that is margin left 100, that will be overridden by this thing, right? Let me show you. Can you see now? Can you see the difference between fixed and relative? So this has its fixed position, okay? We can see margin left 300 px, so it has taken margin from the left that is of 300 px, right? We can see. So position is fixed for the red one, and if I make it absolute, the last one, violet color one, I have made it absolute. Now you can see the difference also. Can you see the difference? Absolute. Okay. So if I do one thing, if I copy and paste this thing, then you can see, you will see the difference. So blue green, and these four are relative, right? This is absolute, and this is, the first one is fixed. The red color is fixed, violet color is absolute. Okay, I will do one thing. Here I will write margin left 300 px. Okay, so here also I have added margin left 300 px, and this is positioned absolute, and the first one is positioned fixed, having the margin left of 300 px, and other four we have relative position, right? So separately I have not given any margin for the relative position. It will automatically inherit the position from here, right? 100. Now let us see. So can you see the difference? These four div which we have at the left side are having the relative position, and the violet color div you can see, that is absolute position. Can you see the violet color div moving up and down? But you can see the position is set to absolute, right? Absolute position, 300 margin from left. You can see that div is moving up and down, and the red color is fixed. Can you see the position of the red one? That is kept fixed. So one thing you have noticed, absolute div is positioned, that is written at the last, but still it has hold its absolute position, that is 100 from top, 300 from left, right? So I hope you have understood. There are different values that you can add to the CSS position property. The most used values are fixed position, so property that is position, value that is fixed. So relative, also a value, relative, absolute, that is also a value, right? And initial, this is also another value, initial. So the blue color is changed to initial. Let me see, the blue color is now the initial. So you can see this one, as I have made it initial, it will start from the top, right? It will start from the initial place. You can see by default it was positioned at the second, but once I have given initial, it will start from here, right? And let me this is also blue. Now if I make it static, so green one static, let me see, you can see this green one is static. If you write initial, it will ignore everything. Okay, let me do one thing. This thing I will make relative, right? And this one I will make initial. So this is positioning at the 5th place. I will make it initial, and before the initial we have static. Static is here, initial is at the lower part, right? Quite down, right? So to make you understand properly, I will also change the color. I will make it brown color, and this one, let's say a pink, right? So let me see. Now you can see the static is green color, static, and initial is brown color. Brown one is, so brown one has been set to initial, and green is static. So I hope you have understood. Let me show you clearly the difference between static and initial. Let me show you. Only we have static and initial, green and brown. Green one is static, right? And brown one, that is initial. So you can see it has started from its initial position. Now if I swap the position, so let us see. So can you see? So there are not a significant difference between initial and static, right? But we can work with the fixed position, right? Relative position, absolute position. One thing is that if you write initial and static, this will ignore the position, right? This position, it will ignore this position. This position has no value once you use initial and static. I hope you have understood how to work with this CSS position property, and what are the value that you can incorporate in the sense of designing a proper website. So thank you for paying attention and watching this lecture till the end. If you have not subscribed my channel yet, do confirm that you click the subscribe button, and in the next video I will come up with some new topic. Thank you for watching.